Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another Hit Save podcast. This time, we're talking with Erik Andersen, the video game developer for So to Speak, a Japanese learning game. Welcome, Erik.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So to Speak was just released, and we're going to dive into the game. And we're going to dive into Erik's experience developing the game as well. So this is going to be super interesting. For anyone watching here, we're going to play the trailer for So to Speak. So we'll see you after that.
バス石5つが
綺麗な鳥だね。
鳥出口傘傘を高く上げないでください。
All right, that was the trailer for So to Speak. So I am so happy to have you here, Erik. We've been talking for a couple of years. We first met at the virtual event, I believe it was.
Yeah, and I think that was the first time that I had shown the game publicly. Like, this is so long ago. I've done some more festivals since then, but yeah, I think that was like right at the beginning.
Yeah, the Boston Fig virtual event that they had. It was a
Yeah,
great event. I mean, it was super fun, and
yeah.
we got to chat. And then last year we got to meet properly at
Yeah,
PAX East as well. That was super fun. And you had a
yes,
booth there.
yeah, that was really cool.
What was the reception like at PAX East?
It was wild. Like, there's so much attention in that showcase. It was in the PAX Rising showcase. They put it in a really cool kind of central location. So many people walking by see it, and they make this huge like cardboard cutout of like a poster for your game. It was like the biggest like cutout I've ever seen of my game's artwork and stuff, and it was really it was fun. A lot of people came by.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So how long have you been working on this game?
It took almost 6 years. Uh, yeah, just a little bit shy of 6 years. I started in June 2019.
That's amazing. And so what? Let's dive into you a bit here. What's your background? Are you a game developer by trade? How does this work?
Kind of. I played games for a long time, ever since I was a kid, and I had dreams of making them myself when I got older. And I took a little bit of a detour. I After I did my undergraduate degree, I went to graduate school to do a PhD, and originally doing research in graphics, but then my advisor at the time wanted to get into educational games. And I was really excited about this. And so I worked with a team of people, other students, artists, undergrads, some faculty members, to build a flash game for learning fractions that is called Refraction. We uploaded it to a flash game website called Congregate,
Yep,
which I guess still exists, but Flash as a thing is not what it was at that time.
for sure.
Um, and a whole bunch of people played it actually on that website, not just children, but like actually one of the main comments on the game was like from people who were apparently adults saying that they were stumped by this kids game, and they were sort of like horrified by that. It was also a puzzle game, like so to speak, is that you had these lasers and you're trying to split the lasers in order to get certain amounts of it to hit different targets in this grid. And that was really fun. That was my favorite part of graduate school in general. And it was fun to see people play it, to get a positive reception from it, and some kids learned fractions too, which was like the original goal of it. And so after graduate school, I taught video game design and did research on educational games at Cornell University for several years. And I had with me at the time who were working on a variety of different educational game projects, some of them having to do with language learning specifically. That was kind of when I first started seriously experimenting with the idea of making a game for language. And some of the games were on other topics. And I decided that I really wanted to try to make a game myself. I didn't really like academia in general. I like teaching, but I didn't like writing grant proposals. And so
Yeah.
I really decided that I was going to try this, and I wanted to spend part of my life like really building it from the ground up, learning how to do all of it. I didn't know how to do art at that time. I had a programming background, and so I left and I started this, and I started gradually getting better at doing pixel art. And many years later, it's finally released. Finally. It took just a huge amount of effort, much more than I thought.
So 6 years have gone by, and it's now released. It's out on Steam. You released
Yes.
it on what was it, March 31st? Is that correct?
Yeah, so a little more than a week ago.
That's amazing. So, what was the reception like during this first week? Because we're recording this on the April 9th.
Yeah, so far it's been great. The reviews have been quite positive. I run in the run up to the release, I was super stressed. There's many things that I still believe are wrong with the game, and I was kind of horrified to impose that on people in that state. But it seems like people are not necessarily getting dragged down by those flaws in it, that actually like people seem to be having a great experience with it. And I love Twitch,
Hmm.
that people are streaming it and I can actually see the people interact with it and realize like, oh, actually, yeah, like people are learning things, people are having a good time. And that's been really phenomenally rewarding and also relieving.
That's so
It's
cool. That's so cool.
yeah.
You so people are learning Japanese through your game. When you started out with this, because you said you really wanted to make a game, was it always
Yeah.
the plan to make this an educational game, to teach people Japanese?
So I really wanted to make a game about language specifically. Yeah, like
Hmm.
that was kind of the whole. I guess I thought about some other educational topics at the beginning too. Now that I like really think back, I guess like I had a couple different things, but language, for me this really matters. My wife is from Japan, and so I've spent a lot of time learning Japanese specifically. At first, just because I was interested, but then later after we got married, then it was like a necessity.
Yeah.
I needed it to visit her family and like not get lost and that kind of thing. So, and now we have a daughter who we're teaching it to, and so I want to understand what my wife and my daughter are saying to each other, and so yeah, it's become this really important thing, and so I've dabbled in all kinds of tools. For trying to get better at it myself. I took a whole bunch of classes when I was in both undergrad and grad school. And I'm convinced that there's really no other skill that you can invest so much time into and still be so bad at. Just the amount of stuff you have to learn to speak a language well
Hmm.
is incredible. It's really, really, really a major thing. And so yeah, because of that personal connection, like I thought the world needs this. Like the world doesn't necessarily need another platformer, right? Like it really needs something to help people deal with learning language. And how about Japanese? Because that's the only one I like know
I
like decently other than English. So
I think it's a solid choice. I've been learning Japanese for a couple of years now, and every time I take a break, it's always longer than anticipated.
Mhm.
So it feels like I'm always restarting from the beginning, even though that's not true. But it feels that way because when I get back into it, I'm super rusty. Then it takes a week or so, and then I'm fine. But
Yeah.
playing your game here, so I bought it immediately as it came out, obviously.
Thank you.
So playing it and getting through it, I'm like, oh my God, I know so much already, but there's so much I still don't know. And it's so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
fun just exploring. And I think you did a great job focusing on like the first couple of stages where that I've played so far. You really focus on things that people would see when they're traveling to Japan as well. So
Mhm.
signs and understanding what they mean, like entrance and exit, and where to go to the bathroom, the restroom, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's super smart. Instead of, yeah, as you said, some other tools might start with boring grammar and stuff like that, but here you actually get some knowledge immediately from the first
Yeah.
scene, and it's really, really cool, and it's very intuitive.
Thank you. Yeah, that was kind of the inspiration for it. Like I've been in train stations in Japan, seeing signs like exit or bathroom, or and sometimes I try like I kind of sit there bored and try to figure out like what is this talking about? Like, can I figure it out? And sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't. But I realize that this is not so bad. Like I kind of like it. As opposed to memorizing flashcards, which gets
Hmm.
dull. And I liked the courses I took, which started by memorizing the alphabet, which was okay. But then you spend a bunch of time just memorizing the characters,
Hmm.
and I think it's more fun to immediately start with something that's relevant that you're going to see right away if you go to Japan. And so I intentionally did not follow the structure that most textbooks would.
I've been looking at, I think it's Tae Kim's grammar book,
Okay.
and they kind of take the same approach there. Instead of having you memorize a bunch of things, it's like, here are things that are important, and,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
and you learn them immediately instead of um, just going through tons and tons of pages of learning everything underneath. It's like, this is important, and here's how it works. So I think you're doing a great job there. I'm gonna switch over here and show some of the artwork so people can see what it looks like as well.
Mhm.
It's a really fun game where you don't interact with the people, but you interact with their conversations rather. So tell us a bit about what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so this is the main interface of the game. Each level of it has some people in it, usually, and they are talking about things that they see. And there are also signs that are on the buildings and elsewhere. And you have to connect all of the Japanese words that you see to what they mean. And you can do that in a couple different ways. So one of them is by dragging the Japanese word directly onto the object it's talking about. So for example, if there is an exit sign, you can drag it like onto the exit itself. Um, and if you can also click on objects and you get a clue about what it is. So if you on some things, if you click on a river, it'll tell you this is a river, for example, and you can actually use the English word in the text description of the object to match it to the Japanese word too.
I think it's a really smart way of showing, again, showing standard words that you would see when you're actually visiting Japan. Not so much like if you're watching a Japanese show or an anime or something like that, but really useful, just short bursts of sentences and
Mhm.
information that is important. Yeah, as I said, I've been having a lot of fun. I tried a beta way back and gave you some feedback as well. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
been an incredible journey just following you along these years and just seeing how far it has come. Did you envision that You said it took 6 years. Did you think it would take 6 years when you started
No,
this?
I thought it would be faster. Yeah, but I had a friend at the time who told me multiply however much time you think it's going to take by 3. So I thought it would take 2 years, and then it ended up taking 6. So that's about right.
That's a good. Yeah, I think that's a good timeline. So, what took up most of your time? You said you didn't know how to do graphics before, so you had to learn
Mhm.
essentially do pixel art. Are you using Ace Sprite or something like that, or?
I just did in Krita,
Oh,
which is
nice.
like a free Photoshop kind of thing. Yeah, it's been great. I know a lot of people use Sprite, but I yeah, I didn't do
So,
that.
how did you learn? Because you made all the art yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, I did all the art, and I basically just followed YouTube tutorials and then just tried it over and over and over again. I read when I started the game that the creator of Stardew Valley also didn't, I guess, have a whole lot of background when he started that game. And over the years that he worked on it, was able to get it to look good. And so I realized that, okay, this must be possible. I'm just going to try this also. Uh, and bit by bit, it got better. And now when people are unhappy about something with the game, it's usually like something with the interface and like, not so much like the art is ugly, which so I feel like it's passable.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because it looks really good and it plays really well. It's such a cute game. I really like the music, the background music. It's great. It's super chill, very lo-fi ish.
Yeah.
Very very nice. It's perfect for a game like this, I think.
Thanks.
And
And the music I did not do. I just want to quickly add that I did not do the music. My brother wrote the music. He has a lot more experience with this than me, and it's actually been really fun working with him. I think he did a great job.
and what's your brother's name?
His name is Greg.
Fantastic. So Greg, thank you for the wonderful music. Uh, What took the longest time? Again, you planned for 2 years. It took 6 years. What
Yeah.
what what made it take even longer than you anticipated?
There's a number of things. Part of it is just I think probably the most concise answer is that I had a certain idea of what I wanted the experience to be like. That you basically the rule I had in my mind was if a Japanese word is related to something, whether that's an English word or whether it's an object, it should respond by rewarding the player for making that connection, regardless of where it happens in the interface. And getting that to work well took forever. It just took many, many iterations of trying things and then getting feedback from players and watching people get stuck on certain things or like have a bad time with certain aspects of the interface and just keeping iterating. And actually, as I was going back and preparing for this interview and looking at some of the older videos, I was realizing that, yeah, it wasn't until really the 4th or 5th year that I feel like it was really starting to meet like the standard that I had for it
That's
of
fantastic.
like usability. It just took a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you have a vision for what you want the game to be, and what you want the game to look like, and what you want the game to feel like. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I would imagine that takes a long time as a
Yes.
solo developer as well,
Yes.
learning all the skills and making
Right.
sure that it looks good and it plays well.
And I'd like to add two more things actually. So one other thing that took time was that I initially started the game in Python, but then
Oh,
the final game is in C sharp. This happened because right when I left Cornell, I had just taught the Python class there, and so like that was kind of on my mind as like what I was using the most. And there's a library Pygame for Python and I could get started really, really quickly
Mm-hmm.
to make something, and that kind of lured me in. And so I didn't really intend that to be the language that the game was in, but then I had built all of this infrastructure very fast. And so I kind of got myself stuck in that way. And so it was great until I needed it to run on other people's computers.
Mm-hmm.
There's not like a really great distribution mechanism with the Python. Like there are third-party tools you can use, but it wasn't what I wanted. And so I had to rewrite the whole game in C sharp. I used MonoGame, which is an open source library for C sharp. Um, and that happened like 2 years into the development process
Oh
that I just
wow.
spent an entire summer redoing it. And I did also fix some things at that point. Like it's not just translating it; it's also like I had done certain design decisions very poorly. And so I was kind of like revisiting and rethinking some of those things. So that's another thing that took time. And lastly, the game actually has a huge amount of content.
Mm-hmm.
And I cared a lot about this. Uh, I did not want it to be an experience that players would only learn a few words and then go to Japan and not recognize anything. I wanted to develop it enough and add enough to it so that the probability that a player would actually recognize something from the game when they're in Japan is very high. Uh, and so I kept adding stuff until it has now, I think, about 650 words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's quite a bit. It's actually going quite in depth about a whole bunch of topics like how to tell time or how to count, how to talk about where objects are located,
Yeah.
uh, like family relations. There's a whole bunch of different topics within it. So building all of that also took a huge amount of time.
And we can't see that really here in the graphics, but you also have everything um, voiced.
Yes, yes. There's voices for all of the content in the game. The people speaking, there are individual voices for those, and then there's also kind of like a narration voice that will read out all the things that you've identified how to say within the game.
I was reading up on your press kit. You said that friends and family helped you out with
Yeah.
the uh, voice acting here. So how was that
Yes.
working with your friends and family to do that?
That was great. Like I'm really, really grateful to the people who helped. It really like helped make this possible, and we had to record and re-record many things.
I bet. Yeah, it was really interesting when I started playing it because I think the first couple of words was in one voice and then another voice and then more and more. And I was like, how
Mhm.
many people did you have here on hand reading out these words for you? It was
I think there's
it's really good.
I think there's like eight different people, yeah, and they're contributing different levels. Like there's some people who are showing up many times, and there's other people who only show up like a few times. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a really fun experience, and for I would say anyone that's going to Japan soon or at least have plans to go there, absolutely try this out. I'm actually going to Japan pretty soon. So
oh
that's
cool,
why I'm playing through this as well, just to brush
oh
up
that's
on
great.
things. And there are a few things that I'm absolutely going to show my daughter as well. She's 6 years old and she knows a few Japanese phrases. So I'm going to show her some of the easier ones that she can then notice when we're out and about. I think that'll be super fun for her as well. So now that the game has released, you've had a good reception. You've
Mhm.
seen Twitch streamers out there playing your game and learning things. Um, would you consider yourself a bit of an educator?
An educator with respect to how to make games, you mean? Or
An
sorry, can you
educator in
clarify what?
Japanese.
Oh, in Japanese. I mean, sort of. Yeah, like I mean, people are are learning things. I mean, I don't I'm not a native speaker myself,
Yeah,
so no one wants to listen to me try to speak Japanese, right? But like this thing that I have built, yes, people are definitely learning things.
I think it's really cool. I played another game. I think it was an RPG game where you learn Japanese as well, and it was also super fun. But it was all in the context of an RPG. While
Mhm.
here, it's in the context of real world,
Yes,
which is even more approachable, I think, when it comes to this type of learning. So
yes,
I
and
find it just super fun to play. Do you have uh, any ideas of going to other shows? I knew you were at PAX East last year. Are you going to be there this year as well? Are you going somewhere else to showcase your game?
I'm not going to be at PAX this year, unfortunately. I guess for in-person events, I don't have any specific plans. Uh, yeah, I kind of spent all my energy just like getting this game out, and like now I'm trying to like pick up the pieces of all the stuff. like, like, people are asking, "What are you gonna do next?" And it's like I have no idea, right? Like,
Let me breathe. Yeah.
yeah,
I totally get it. Yeah, you released it a week ago.
yeah,
I jumped into your Discord on release day as well, and I saw a bunch of people, and I posted a few things as well because I was a
yeah.
little confused about a few things, but that cleared it up immediately. And I think the response that I saw from people playing the game and going through the game it seems like you've had many people go through the game several times before as well. Um, Tell us
Yes,
about the testing experience and the user testing.
yeah. So I've been running informal playtests almost continuously since I started. Uh, every couple weeks, like somebody would have play through uh, sort of whatever I was working on at the time, and that became a major part of the design process. I have two friends from grad school who are just great, and we actually have a weekly meeting anyway where we just all talk about like whatever we're doing, and they have spent tremendous amount of time helping me debug stuff and fix stuff, and I'm so grateful to them. And so through them and through other people, I've been doing informal playtesting. About a year ago, I guess, I started doing more formal testing through my game's Discord. So I put a message up saying like, "Oh, I'm looking to give people a key to kind of a semi-completed version of this. Does anyone have any interest in doing that?" And then I got a whole bunch of people signing up for that. And I kind of ran this gradually, actually. Like, I did not have everyone do it at once.
Hmm.
I did it in groups. So I think I ended up doing this 4 times where I would bring in maybe like 6 to 8 people in each of these groups and then uh, give them the game. I made a Google form that asked a whole bunch of questions about what they were liking and not liking and how far they got and how long it was taking them and whether they had technical problems, and uh, wait a few weeks and then collect the responses from that and then look through, and yes, that helped a lot, especially to get some of the kind of get opinions about how the game functions as a whole. One thing that came up, for example, is that the game started to slow down as you played it for a long time because the number of words that you've collected increases. So
Hmm.
it's doing more computation to try to keep aware of all of the information. And I didn't notice this from doing the shorter play tests because people are only playing for an hour or two. But if somebody actually sits down and spends 10 hours all at once, then like the system really starts to slow down. And so I had to spend time speeding it back up.
So, you said you moved from Python over to C sharp. Did
Mhm.
that help with performance as well?
Yeah, yeah, it did. Python is not fast.
Yeah, it's very useful, but it's not speedy. That's for sure.
Yes.
So when you did these play tests, is there anything specific that really stands out as something that made a big change in the game, or anything like that?
Yeah, so one thing happened right away actually. This was a few weeks after I started the game. I was really inspired by a game called Heaven's Vault,
Hmm.
which I don't know if you've looked at yourself ever. It's this wonderful adventure game about an archaeologist who's discovering this lost civilization, and there's a bunch of text. The creators of it created a language for the game, and like sort of a it's a little bit of a side game,
Hmm.
but you are deciphering what these symbols mean as you play the game. So you might find an artifact and you're trying to guess, is this about like some king, or like what is this thing? And that was the first time that saw a game that really impressed me, where language learning was the core of what you're doing. It's not an educational game at all. It's about translating a fictional language.
Yeah.
And a key mechanic of that game actually is that you make guesses, but the guesses are not confirmed right away. There's In that game, the mechanism is that you have to see it multiple times, and then the character will conclude that your guess from before was correct. If it was correct, and if it's incorrect, the character will conclude that that guess is incorrect. And Chance of Sonar, which came out actually much later, also has a similar idea where you guess initially, and then it there's a process through which you come to understand whether or not your guesses are correct. So when I tried this, when with playtesters, the original mechanic was much more like that. Like you would guess,
Yeah.
and then there was a system that would confirm whether the guesses are correct enough. The players hated this. They absolutely hated it. They like really wanted to know right away, is their guess correct?
Yeah.
And I think people have a little bit of a different tolerance for this when it's a real language versus a fictional language.
Hmm.
That if it's, if you're not so invested in actually taking away knowledge about the language as you're playing it, then I think the game mechanics can be a little bit looser with this. But
Hmm.
if people are playing it for the purpose of learning, then this confirmation really, 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 really matters. So yeah, so that's why it is like it is in the final game, and not like some of the games it was inspired by. There's no guessing. You're just wrong or right, and it tells you that right away.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, the fictional. I think you're absolutely right there. Fictional languages, it doesn't really matter if you get it right or wrong, as long as you progress through the story. But here, you don't want to learn the wrong things because it's an actual
Yeah.
language that you're trying to learn and trying to use later on.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a really good that's really good feedback to get early on, so you didn't have to
Yeah.
spend a ton of time into that mechanic and then have everyone say no, this sucks.
Yeah.
That's great. Um, when we look at the art here, we talked about that before, where you learned pixel art yourself, and
Mhm.
you obviously progressed throughout the 6 years here.
Mhm.
Um, what were some of your inspirations when it comes to the art style?
Yeah, I was quite inspired by the Stardew Valley art style, just because I felt like it was simple and effective. Um, but then I ended up doing some things in a different direction, actually. One thing that is a little bit of a deviation is that you can see into buildings typically. So at many pixel art games, the buildings just kind of have like a opaque windows. And actually, I noticed in these screenshots, there's an old one that I need to update, where it still has that. But like, I eventually started allowing you to see like into the buildings and stuff, and that helped actually with, because sometimes you have people like looking at a cafe,
Hmm.
and how do you know from the outside that it's a cafe? Well, because you can see in Japan, I mean, like,
Yeah.
because you can see into it and you see people drinking coffee, right? So to like get that to work, I sort of needed to change a little bit some aspects of the art style.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because when you yeah, I'm trying to think here. Yeah, Stardew Valley and many of the other games. Like here is a good example where you can actually see through the window. So that's a great example. And the cafe example that you said, I think that's great too. Where when you're at a place, it's not like they have blackout curtains everywhere. You can actually
Right.
see
Yeah.
into the shops, and you can see what's happening within the shop. And you can see like, oh, this is a luggage store. This is a cafe. This is a train station. You can see a little more. So that's awesome, and I really like. You can see this here as well, and you can see that in the cars and the buses. You can actually see into them. You can see people sitting in the buses, waiting for the bus to leave. You can see the seats within the cars. So I really like those little details that you added there. It gives the art a little more life, I think, instead of just having those opaque windows, and where it just looks like a shell of something, like a shell of a house or a shell of a car. But here it's like, no, it's actually a house with something going on inside. So I really like that. It's really, really neat.
Cool. Thanks.
So I know people are asking you what's next, and I'm not going to ask that right now. But what do you hope people get out of your game as they progress through it?
Yeah. So I hope that they. I mean, the thing that I care about the most is whether or not they learn and they enjoy doing it. The game is kind of a giant experiment into whether you can learn a language through puzzles. Um, and specifically, that's inspired a little bit by the setup that I talked about before, where I would notice that when I was in Japan and sitting in train stations, I'm trying to figure it out. And that's actually kind of fun. And the question is, if you string together enough of these puzzles, could you actually learn a whole bunch of words that you could remember? And so it seems like it's working. Like I have some friends who went to Japan after they played a version of it and they actually recognized a word on a sign there. And so instead of like without memorizing, instead doing it in this way where it does not tell you what things mean right away, and the whole point of the game is to figure that out. Um, the so it seems to be working, and so I hope that people will learn words and then also kind of maybe think a little bit more about how they learn language, that you can work backwards from some piece of media or something that you want to understand rather than working forwards from a textbook where it's going through all these grammar lessons, and that can be challenging, and that might not be for everyone, but I think personally that's more interesting. So, like when I learned English when I was a kid, like I don't think anybody explained what a whole bunch of words mean. Later on, once you get into like school, then of course I was learning words from like dictionaries and from the teachers and stuff. But like as like when I was really little, no. Uh, so people I think naturally have that ability and that mechanism, and it's actually kind of interesting. I was thinking about this recently that like the word meme, I'm not sure I've ever seen a definition for the word meme, but I know exactly what it is, right? And I'm sure you do too,
Yep.
because you've seen many, many examples. So this learning continues as an adult, where you're just like trying to understand what are the boundaries between different concepts, what is within the group of things that this is talking about, and what is outside of it. And um, so I'm by making a game with that, I'm also kind of hoping to push that as a way to go about doing this.
Yeah, I think the game that you have created here, I think it's a great complement to other types of learning, where you can get more structured learning elsewhere. but I think this is a great complement in helping you learn things quickly and understand how things tie together. So you mix a bunch of hiragana, katakana, you got kanji in there, and I think that's really good because when you start with a textbook, it's going to be hiragana for a few chapters, and then some katakana, and then kanji comes in like textbook number 3. But that's not real life. When you actually go to Japan, or if you try to read something, read a comic or read a kid's book like I'm trying to, it's a mix. It's a complete mix of 3 different character types. And if you go to Japan and you have learned Japanese by just trying to learn hiragana, you're not going to be able to read anything, essentially. So having that mix immediately, I like it because it forces you to think more about how these 3 sets of characters essentially fits together and how they work together in sentences and just in signs as well. So I think you've done something really, really cool here, and I really like it. So I hope I can get time enough to finish it before I head over to Japan for my trip. But I'm absolutely going to recommend this to anyone else who's going as well. So this is really, really cool. So is there anything else that you would like to share that we haven't talked about within the podcast here?
I think it's good. I was wondering if you like. So I provided like some videos also. In That's the same scene over several years, and like
Yes.
I guess without looking directly at them, I just wanted to like briefly mention that one of the things I was realizing. So as you look at this video series, you can see that the art is getting better over time, which is great. But there was a major change that happens about halfway through the development where initially when you clicked on words, they would come up with this giant kind of like chalkboard that would like block your view of many things behind it. And that was the original way that you would interact with it. Whereas in the final game, as you can see in these screenshots that are looping, there's this like bottom thing that's where the words are showing up. And so you kind of get this workspace that you can use to fill in words and get more information about them that's a little bit more detailed than what you see within the world. And so that I think was a huge improvement because it's kind of out of your way. The workspace is always in the particular thing. And this was not my idea. Like I mentioned, I have 2 friends that helped a lot. Like this is actually their idea. And it really made the game better.
Yeah, this is great, and I as you can see here as well, you got the little dictionary or your personal dictionary that fills out as you learn more words as well. And I think that's a really great mechanic in showing progression, where players can feel like I've learned this, or at least I figured it out yesterday when I was playing, and then I can repeat learning it. So I really like that. It's kind of like a trophy wall, I would say, of like accomplishments. I figured this out. I figured that out. And I do really enjoy that it's a puzzle game where you have to figure things out, and you have a lot of pointers to help you at the start. And then as you progress, it gets harder and harder, which any game should. And you get even more knowledge as you progress through the game. So I think it's a great experience, and it's a great concept. So huge thank you for creating this.
Thank you.
So I wanted to wrap up here.
Okay.
This has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much, Erik, for coming on. Where can people find you? Where should they go for the game? Where can they buy it and try it out?
Yeah, the game is on Steam. It's called So to Speak. It's, I think, relatively easy to find on Steam, and from there, there's links to other social media or the games Discord, where I participate.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Erik. This has been wonderful. And thank you, everyone who listens and views our podcast here. I'm Jonas Rosland with Hit Save. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week.